Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope you're having a good day. What's happening? I hope you're having a good day. All right, all right. So this is going to be an interesting session. I want to prepare your mind. We're going to have a practical session in the afternoon. But I want to lay a very strong foundation for some of the things that we're going to do. And the reason why this is very important is because everybody here is into business. One of the most important things that any business person wants to have is success. And success comes in form of, revenue, more money. Am I right? More customers, international customers. All right. So I'm going to show you a few things that will really help improve your business, both locally and internationally, and help you position yourself for more success in your business. All right? Okay. So I'm going to start with a picture that I wanted to show you. Can everyone see the picture? Just look very carefully. Now, the reason why I'm showing this picture is because I'm going to show you another picture, and I want to hear your feedback, okay? As you can see, the picture is clear. It's not like it's not clear, but it just, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be there. Yeah, so now, one of the two pairs of shoes costs 150 and the other costs 50,000. I'm sure you would already guess which is 150,000 and which is 50,000. And here's the interesting thing. You can make that judgment without picking the shoe and checking the quality of the shoe. Why? Can anybody give me an idea? Why would you give this more value than the other one without physically assessing it, checking the quality of the leather, checking the quality of the gluing, checking the workmanship? Why would we do that? Picture quality, thank you, attractive presentation. And there's a reason why we do that. When we see a good picture, permit me to do this, but, there's a part in the Bible that says God looks at the heart. But man doesn't look at the heart. Man looks on the outward. And so we judge by what we see. That's why when people go out for dates, on the first date, you don't dress anyhow. If you watch movies, you see, they'll call their friend, oh my God, it's my first date, what should I wear? They'll take a picture, they say, do you think this works? They say, no, it's too much. They say, try something else. Why are we doing all of that? Because we want to make the right impression. And the reason why we do that is because we know that the right impression matters eventually. And so what you are seeing here is that in our minds, we almost automatically assume that when somebody can pay so much attention to making their presentation look good, we assume that that person has paid a lot of attention to making the product good as well. Why? Because normally, when we find people who don't pay attention to what their product looks like, it's a sign of lack of seriousness. Because if you can pay so much attention to the quality of your products, the least you can do is ensure that it looks as great. And here's the mistake that many of us make. Because we don't realize how important presentation is. Some of us are great. Our products are top-notch quality. But we miss this element sometimes. And that limits us on a very, very high level. That people will go in the supermarkets and have 10 products. And they will see a product, they'll see your product, they'll see another person's product. Your product is cheaper. But it's better. And the other person's product is more expensive. But because the customers can't take it to the lab and test, and I'm going to point how emotional human beings are later when I get to talking about branding. Because as human beings, we're more emotional than we are logical. We like to believe that we're logical, but we're not. We're more emotional. And that's why branding is such an important element in the success of your business. And so the reason why somebody will walk in a supermarket, find your product that is cheaper and better, but go for another product that is more expensive but not as good is because of how it looks. Nobody has the time to verify every single product in the store. And so our job is to ensure that if you have put in a lot of effort into making your products good, you might as well put in some extra effort into making sure that it looks good. All right? Come on, I love feedback, all right? Okay, good. I was going to show you another picture. Now, these are shoes, okay? And they're not looking bad, are they? They're not terrible, right? But when you see this, it feels like this is, you can buy this in a mall. And here's something interesting I found out. Have you noticed, if you've gone into malls, when you go to the market, Wuse Market, or even if you've gone to Karimu Market, the way they sell their items, the people that are selling shoes, they'll just pack everything together. Those who are selling clothes, they'll stash everything together. But guess what? When you go to the mall, they don't package their items like that. There are some malls you go into, you see one flat table. Now, that table can contain 10 shoes, but they'll put only 3. It's a psychological... And you're wondering, they have many other items in the store, but because they want people to come in and have a perspective of the quality of their products, all those tiny details, and one thing you can easily understand from this picture and that picture, even though they may be the exact same quality, the fact that this doesn't allow the product stand out. That's one of the easiest things you can notice. You can see the shoe, you can see the background. The background doesn't allow the product to shine compared to what you have here. So here you can really see the beauty of the product. And then you can finally fall in love with it, such that if you were going to pay 50K for it and you got it and they told you, last price is 65, you will call your brother, do you have 15K? Please send me. Because you've already fallen in love with it. And so I'm going to teach you how to make people fall in love with your products. All right? So I'm going to talk to you about building an online presence, basic product photography, and how to build a brand. Now, let's talk about some statistics to give you perspective as to why this is really important. In 2021, global e-commerce sales surpassed $4.2 trillion. Now, this was reflecting a remarkable growth of about 27.6% compared to the previous year. Now, this is from Statista. And the reason why this happened was majorly because of the lockdown. The lockdown revealed a lot of things to many of us. Many of us didn't realize that we could run our businesses without going to the store or to the office every day. And so the lockdown happened, many of our eyes opened to seeing the possibility of working digitally. And that has been good, but the challenge is that there are many other people who haven't been able to catch up to speed on what this new system of working is. And so they'll spend a lot of time working on their products, but they're not putting it in the right places. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. And you can see mobile e-commerce accounted for 72.9% of e-commerce sales. Now, this means that more people are making purchases online through their phone compared to their laptops. Now, what does this mean? This means that many people who have finally come to understand what the digital space looks like, so they say, you know what, I need a website. And they forget that building a website is not the same thing as making your product easily accessible for people who are using their phones. Why? Because some websites are not mobile friendly. So this singular information can change everything. When more than 70% of e-commerce sales happens on phones, on mobile phones, you realize that if anything, you want to optimize your website for mobile devices, because that's where a lot of sales happen. That's where people are spending all their time on. Everybody here, almost everybody has a phone. Not everybody has a laptop. And many times when we make purchases, it's not at work, because most of us bring out our laptops when we're working. But when we're relaxing, when our body feels like dropping cash, or when money feels like coming out, we're hardly on our laptop. So it means that you want to ensure that you are optimizing your platforms for mobile sales. And obviously, digital market space has expanded at an unprecedented rate. Compared to now, the rate has obviously gone up. So it means that if you are not taking advantage of that, you're losing out on a lot of things. And that's why right now it's even easier for people, young people who seem to have an idea how this works. Some of them can start a business today. Surprisingly, start a business today. In 6 months or less, they may be doing much better than somebody who has been in the same industry for 20 years. And so what you are realizing is that success in this aspect is not a function of how much time you spent alone, but how much you know and how updated you are. And so I'm going to update you on a lot of things that will really help you. as well. And I want us to see something here that's going to make sense to you when we go down the line. See what it says. 87% of customers research their products online before making a purchase. Now, the reason why this is important is because when somebody finds your product, now let's go back to the example I gave. Somebody's in the supermarket, they find your product, they find another product. Now, let's say if it was me and I have 5K budgeted for this product, and I find your product is 4,500, I find another product is 5,500. The difference is 500 naira. The question is, should I go for the cheaper one? It seems like the obvious thing to, but I ask myself, why is this one cheaper than the other one? What comes to my mind is maybe they used lesser quality products. Maybe they didn't pay enough for attention. And so sometimes people do that. But some people go the extra mile to say, let me find out. And so they open the product, they check the details. If they don't have enough information, they go online and try to find out what people are saying about these products. And when they go online and they don't find anything, it reinforces the idea that they had that this person is not serious. Because I can't find any information about this person online. And then they Google the one that's 5,500. They find, they just find many pictures, people talking about how great the product is. Immediately, you lost a sale by simply missing out on information about you online. So people are checking more about products before they buy them. So you want to ensure that when people search for your product, when people try to find out about your business, they have something solid that they will find, okay? And then online shopping preference increased by 30% in 2020, with 49% of them choosing to shop online more frequently than before. And so some people have physical products, some have virtual products. Don't pay attention to one and not the other. You want to pay attention to both because both have the capacity to grow your product. So what you want to do with this information is ensure that you establish a robust online presence. And I'm going to show you how to do that, okay? Social media usage reached 4.33 billion users globally in 2021, with an annual increase of 13.2%. What this means is that it's not enough for you to have a good product. It's not enough for you to have good pictures of your products. It's not even enough for you to have a website. You need to go the extra mile to be very present on social media. Let me explain what some people may not understand about social media, especially people who are not in the younger bracket of TikTokers and Instagrammers. What's happening on social media is that social media has sort of become a new virtual world, such that people are making most of their decisions based on the things that they see on social media, based on the things that people validate on social media. And so if your brand exists in the real world and you are missing out on being on social media, you are losing out on a huge market. That's why the example I gave you would seem real to you, because somebody who understands what that looks like can start a business right now, in 6 months, can reach more people, sell out more products than someone who has been in the same business for many years, simply because he took advantage of social media. So this is something that you want to take advantage of. Now, see these other statistics. 54% of customers trust brands more if they're active on social media. And let me tell you why this is true. How many of you have bought something on Instagram before? Let me see your hands. Okay, good. This is a good number. Now, let me ask you this question and tell me if it is true. When you open the Instagram account, do you check the comments to see what people were saying? Now, why did you do that? You did that because you needed extra reinforcement to be sure that, okay, these guys are not a scam. And how many of you paid before you received the product? Most of us pay before we receive the products. And the reason why we can do that is because at least we know that if they don't bring your products, you will drag them. Right? You will copy the links, send it to all your family members. Please, I want you to post about these people. They took my money and they didn't give me back. So somehow being on social media gives you the leverage of the fact that this person has an integrity to protect. So when people find you on social media, they assume that, okay, this person is serious about their business and they have an integrity to protect. I can trust them. That's why you really, really need to be on social media. So leveraging social media is essential for building brand trust and engaging with with a vast audience. And here's something else about social media that I'm going to talk about before I continue. Social media is not just also for building trust. It's also a good way for you to get real-time feedback. There's some people who are releasing new products, and when they release the products, people are commenting, oh, I love this product, oh, I love this product, oh, I love this product. And maybe they do something, they post about one product, they post about another product, and they realize that product A is getting so much feedback, so much buzz. And they realize that now that product A is getting more sales. What social media has helped you do without realizing is that you didn't need to go to the market to send out a questionnaire. Which product do you guys like among all my products? Why? Because on social media, the product that's doing better will receive more engagement and more attention. So it's a simple signal for you that if I'm spending the same amount of money on all the products, I might as well shut down on all those other products that are not doing well and focus on this one that is doing well. Wonderful data analytics by just being on social media. You're able to engage with the people who are actually buying your products. And here's something interesting. I found out the statistics that for many businesses, bulk of their orders come from repeat customers, not the new ones. So it means that when you find people who have interacted with you on social media, you want to go the extra mile by keeping them engaged, because it's easy to keep a customer that you have purchased than to try to get a new customer. So spending money on marketing, trying to reach new customers, why not spend more of that time maintaining the customers that you have, engaging them, listening to them, satisfying their needs, doing the things that they actually want, and you'll definitely make more money that way. Okay? Now here's another statistic. 76% of businesses consider digital agility crucial for adopting market changes. So this is what I was talking about, how you want to get information from your customers and let that information influence the decisions that you make about your product, your services, how you do, and what you do. Companies with advanced digital capabilities are 26% more likely to outperform their peers in profitability. And now it doesn't seem like rocket science, because you are getting real-time information about your product, getting feedback. You are able to iterate in real time instead of waiting for 6 months to now go through your books and find out that, oh my God, this product is not working. You could have gotten the feedback in real time on social media. All right, so digital skills empower businesses to navigate uncertainties and maintain a competitive edge in a rapidly evolving market. So let me tell you about myself before I continue. My name is David, and what I do is that I help global brands tell their stories in a clear and compelling way. I empower people that build them by sharing my insights on entrepreneurship, branding, and communications. And these are some of the people that I've worked with. And so I am a speaker, an entrepreneur, and a branding consultant. So when I talk about business, I'm not talking about it theoretically, because I also do business as well. So it's not a theoretical concept for me. And I typically exhaust ideas on strategies on entrepreneurship, branding, and marketing. So that's my sweet spot. All right? So let's talk about how to take appealing product pictures, first of all. And the reason why this is important is because, like I told you at the beginning, a simple picture could determine if somebody was going to buy your product or not. And there are many factors that can affect your sales, packaging, the quality of your product, and all of that. Now I'm assuming that you have gone the extra mile to ensure that you have a great product. So what can we do apart from all that you have done? Okay, so let's talk about how to take appealing product pictures. The first question is why? And I've tried to emphasize why already. First impressions matter. I talked about this at the beginning, because when people experience your brand, it creates an impression in their hearts. Once you saw those pictures already, imagine that there was a logo on those pictures, the pictures that we really liked, and then you saw somebody else wearing that product. Somehow you apply the level of excellence that you saw on that picture to that person, and then you assume that this is a person of excellence. They know good stuff because of how you've perceived it. So we tend to do that as human beings. And so you want to be conscious of that as a brand and ensure that you have good pictures that properly depict who you are targeting and the quality of your product. And here's the interesting thing. First impressions matter because of who you are trying to impress. Let me explain it to you this way. How many of you, parents, okay, when your children maybe came into the room, okay, and maybe they were crying and they wanted to get your attention, right? But you were eating something you told them not to eat, maybe chocolate, for example, in the kitchen, right? And they came into the room, they came into the kitchen, and you immediately hid the chocolate, okay? And now, first thing your child says, "Mommy, what are you doing?" Or, "Daddy, what are you doing?" I said, "Nothing," because there's chocolate in your mouth. And then they say, "Are you leaving your dirty plates on the sink?" Now, because leaving your dirty plates on the sink is a lower offense than eating the chocolates, you most likely will say, "Yes, I'm so sorry, you should don't do that again." Now, what am I trying to paint? I'm trying to paint a picture of, most times, the impressions we are trying to create are because of the people. You will not go the extra mile when you want to meet with your colleagues at the office. But when you want to meet with the president or the vice president, there's a way you dress that's different from how you dress when you're going to meet your colleague. Why? Because you're trying to create a different impression. I'm saying this because when you do your product photography, when you're working on your products, you're not trying to impress everybody. And I'm going to talk about that when I talk about targeting your audience. Because who you are trying to impress is what is going to determine the kind of products and the kind of pictures that you would even have. For example, how many of us know the power drinks, Predator? It's a power drink. How many of us know Predator? And then how many of us know Monster? Monster, right? Now, Monster and Predator in Nigeria are not targeted at the same set of people. Why? Because one is more expensive than the other. And so when they do the marketing for Predator is very different from the marketing for Monster, because they are not attracting the same set of people. So I'm saying this so that you are aware when you're taking your pictures, because you have a good idea of who you are trying to target. I'm going to show you some pictures, and this is going to make sense to you very soon. Let's talk about the fact that, number two, good pictures actually help you enhance the customer trust. When people see good pictures, they already automatically assume that you are trustworthy and that you are calculated and that you are intentional. You pay attention to the details. Very, very important. And all that does is that it helps you increase your sales, because the more people feel greatly towards your products, the higher the chance of them purchasing from you. Okay? And another thing that great photography does for your product is that you can easily highlight your product features when you have a good picture. There's some products that need some extra detail. For example, let's assume you wanted to buy an engagement ring. A guy wants to buy an engagement ring for his girlfriend, and he's searching online, and then everybody just has different rings. But he sees this Instagram account that after they took the picture of the ring, right, they now did an extra close-up on the diamond, and they showed how it was shining. I'll tell you for free that small image has created a strong impression in the viewer's eyes, because now it feels like they can really see what they're paying for. And so even if your product is a little more expensive than the other products, because they feel that level of assurance that this is exactly what I'm looking for, chances of them buying it from you are higher. And that's just because you took the right types of picture. Okay? And then another thing that great photo photography will do for you is that it will help you maintain visual consistency across platforms. I want to show you the pictures. I want you to see the pictures above, okay? Now, all these pictures are from Coca-Cola, okay? I'm going to talk about consistency when I start talking about branding, but let me drop this here before we get there. One of the things you can notice already is that all the pictures seem to have a similar photo treatment. Photo treatment meaning there's a way they edited it that makes it look different from normal pictures, such that all the three pictures have the same photo treatment. Now, that's one way you can also achieve consistency as a brand without slapping your logo on the picture. Because anytime we see a picture with these photo treatments, already our mind goes to Coca-Cola. Pepsi doesn't do their photo treatments like this. Fanta doesn't even do their photo treatments like this. Only Coca-Cola does. And here's something else about the photography, and this is going to tie into branding as we see later. Look at the types of pictures that you're seeing here. What do you notice? Anybody? Who said togetherness? Thank you. Togetherness. They're all happy. They're smiling. Appreciating the products. Now, this is one of the differences between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. How many of us really can tell the difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi? Not many of us. Now, this means that it's possible for you to have the exact same product in terms of quality, and you can have different levels of sales, because it's not so much about the product as it is about the marketing and the branding. So two people can have the exact same product and they will do different levels of sales, because the product itself is not the only determinant for success. So let's go back to this. Let me just explain this now. One of the things you would observe about the brand like Coca-Cola is that you must have heard the word share happiness. So Coca-Cola as a brand is selling the picture of happiness, togetherness. You would hardly see a picture of Coca-Cola with one person in it. Most times, Coca-Cola products and in their shoots, you find a group of people around a Coke. Or you see Coke with food. Coke with family settings. Coke with hangouts. Coke on the beach. And they're having a picnic. So now they've sold Coca-Cola as a product that creates a bond. And so people already just subconsciously associate that level of happiness with Coca-Cola as a brand. Compared to Pepsi, for example. Pepsi, for example, uses a lot of celebrities in their advertising. And so you see Messi, you see Tiwa Savage, you see Wizkid, you see Davido. Coca-Cola doesn't do that. So I'm just trying to show you how different people can market the same product and have different levels of results. That is completely not a function of the quality of the product. Okay? So photography is one way that you can achieve consistency in your branding. Okay, so what are the elements of a great product photo? What are the things that you need to pay attention to when you're taking pictures of your products that actually make you look very excellent? I'm going to go over some of them right now. I'm going to start with clarity and sharpness. So you need to ensure that your pictures are very sharp. And how do you achieve that? I'm going to show you how that works. But you need to ensure that your pictures are sharp. It means that you need to use the best quality of cameras that you have access to. So you may not have a professional camera, but if you can get a good phone to take the pictures, do your best to ensure that the picture looks sharp. If it doesn't look sharp, it looks shabby. Okay, and when it looks shabby, it doesn't give off the vibe you want. Number two, you need appropriate lighting. Look at this, okay? Now this is, who knows what's here? Can you see this picture? What's this? It's a burger. It's not very clear because it's actually a burger, right? And what's this as well? They're both burgers. So imagine you got to a restaurant and this was a picture of the burger and they wrote 2,000 naira. And then you saw this and they wrote 3,000 naira. Chances are, if you had the money, you buy this one. It may be the exact same product, but because it wasn't well presented, you can't trust it. Do you understand? Please tell me if you understand. Exactly. So this is very important. If you're taking pictures, use very good lighting so that it really highlights your product. And for lighting, one of the simple things you can do without a massive setup for photography is take your pictures against the light source. For example, if you pick out your phone and you want to take a picture with your friends, this simple thing will help even your social life when you're taking pictures with your friends by simply staying in the direction of the sunlight. For example, if I'm standing here, okay, basically just be behind your shadow. So if I'm standing like this and I'm outside and my shadow is here, where should I take my picture from? Right here, because this is where the light is coming from. So the same thing with your products. Where the source of light is coming from is where you want to take your pictures from. That's going to make all the difference. And many times we underestimate the greatness of natural lighting. Sometimes you don't need a massive setup. You just need to have good sunlight and a good camera, and you'll have good pictures. So that's something to pay attention to. This is what good and bad lighting can do. I mean, this isn't really terrible, but you can see the difference. You can see the weird shadows here, when here you can see the products very nicely. Okay? Another example, this is a bracelet. The lighting is different. This was probably using the room light, just the light from the ceiling. But this, when you get a light bulb, when you get a soft box, or when you even go, if sometimes you go outside and you put it under on a white paper, you may achieve this level of clarity. So lighting is very important. It can make all the difference in your pictures. See, and you avoid some unnecessary shadows when you have good lighting, because those shadows make your product look very shabby. Okay? Can you see how ugly this shadow is when you can have something like this? And next is acrylic color representation. Now, this is especially important for people who are selling products that have to do with color. For example, if you're selling a fabric, when you take a picture of your fabric, you want to ensure that when you take a picture of a yellow fabric, you don't edit it and the yellow turns into orange and you post it on Instagram. Because when you post it on Instagram and it looks orange and they order it and you send it to them and they're seeing yellow, they will drag you. So ensure that you use good lighting so that you accurately capture the color of the product. So sometimes it's not just clothing, different products, but you want to ensure that you have the exact possible color so that you are not putting yourself in trouble. That's very important. Next, another thing you want to do if you want to have good pictures of your product is to have different angles. Okay? And now what does this do? Imagine that this was the only picture of this shoe that we saw. It won't persuade us as much as having 3 of them. Especially when people buy dresses. I've seen this with some of my female friends. When they say, I need to see the back of that dress. I need to see the back. Right? That's important. Because if you show the front alone, we don't know what's at the back, I don't trust you. And then imagine I have another vendor, I can see the front, I can see the side, I can see the back. They even do a video of them dancing. Even if it's a little more expensive. Why? Because we don't like to take chances. I'm going to talk about this a lot more during branding. The reason why, pay attention to this. Most of us, when we come into a room like this, okay, or we sit down, if we go out and we come back, chances are we will sit at the same location. Why? There's something about us that doesn't like to try new things when something is working. I grew up, let me tell you this, personal story. I grew up and all my mother used to cook in her house was no. Till today, if I go to any supermarket, no matter the advertising I've seen, all I pick is no chicken. I don't even guess. I'm not interested in trying new things. I'm not interested. I just pick the no like that. There's something about us. So maybe something dramatic needs to happen that will change my perspective. But we are wired like that many times. And so what you are able to do when you have something like this is you're able to sell the idea more when you have different angles. And when you do this and you get a referral, referrals are amazing. Referrals will do more than any marketing. So sometimes you can just need to go the extra mile to ensure that you convince that one person. And who knows, that one person may be the evangelist for your business. So get multiple angles for your picture so that it's more compelling. Yes, sir? Exactly. Thank you so much. That's another perfect example. Thank you, sir. All right, next is contextualization. Now, this is very important. And remember what I told you about the dress. You know, it's one thing to see somebody standing front of the dress right of the dress, back of the dress. Oh my. So sorry. It's one thing to see the person standing, front of the dress, back of the dress, left of the dress, and all of that. But when you go on Instagram and you see the person dancing with the dress in a venue. Now, what happens is that as a lady, you already imagine yourself, even if you can't dance, you just imagine, oh my God, is this how beautiful I'll look when I'm dancing in this dress? And that sells the idea more to you. That's what contextualization does. When you have a product, when you contextualize your product, you help your customers see how they can use your product and what it looks like when other people use it. I'm going to mention this later, but this is a key to your social media. Because what you post on social media is not the same as what you post on your website. So I'll get there very soon. But are you seeing that what pictures we have here, the pictures we have here are very different from the pictures we have here, even though they are the same shoes. These pictures are performing a different function entirely. These pictures are designed to make you trust the quality of the product and see what it looks like. These pictures are there for you to fall in love with it, to help you imagine yourself in it. So now, I'm imagining myself sitting down the way she is. I'm imagining myself standing beside my wife and two of us are twinning in the shoe. It sells the idea more when you're able to do that. Okay, I see myself running. Oh, this is something I can use to run. Another thing that this does is it also helps people who don't understand your product know how it can be used. You know, it's a shoe, so we all know how shoes are used. But there are some products that are not exactly spelled out for how to use them. Let me give you context. I'll show you a few pictures. Now, what's this? Shea butter, right? Here's the interesting thing. And this is why I said it matters who you are trying to impress. Okay? If I was a customer and I want to buy one bottle of shea butter and I see this kind of picture on your Instagram, I won't even click on it. But guess what? If I'm an importer and I saw this picture, I'm like, this is my guy. Are you understanding? That's why I said it matters who you are trying to impress. If you are focused on one-on-one customers, you can't use a picture like this. If you are focused on importers and exporters, let them see the cartons. So when they see, the more cartons they see, the more they know, this guy can handle our volume. Do you understand? That's why I said it matters who you are trying to impress. Let me show you another picture. Now, what you're seeing here is the same product in a different context. Now, this is more suitable for a customer. And what you are doing by this is that you are showing them, by adding a comb and this hairbrush, that this is a good product to use for your hair. Without saying, good for your hair, written on the picture. Do you understand? That's how to contextualize your products. See another version here. The same product, a different context entirely. So when people see this, they already can imagine, oh my, I can use this for my hair, especially if they didn't know what it was before. So I can use this for my hair, I can use this for my skin. Oh my God, I need to buy this product. But imagine you didn't show them this picture. All they will see is the picture of the product in a container, read out all the details, shea butter, very natural, organic, buy, get one free. You know, it may not have the effect that these pictures will give. All right? Let me use another product. What product is this? Cassava. Everybody knows what cassava is. Now, this is a really good picture, right? A few things, you know, now, when you see a picture like this kind of picture will be good for exporters, you know, when they see that, hey, this person is dealing in volumes, you know. Now, this same product, I'm going to show you another context, okay? Now, this is the same product in a different context. Now, this is, I feel like this is nicer because it's cleaner, you know, when you're dealing with people who just want to buy things for fancy, who want to go. Now, this kind of picture is good for when people want to take it to their wife's house as part of the gifts, part of the bride list, bride price. Why? Because it's looking presentable. Different types of pictures for different sets of people. Now, this is the same product on a different setting. This is good for a rich woman who just wants to cook for her 5 children or 2 children. This is what she wants to see. So depending on who your target is, it will determine how you contextualize your products. I'll show you another version of the same product. So now what you have done is you are showing the versatility of your products. That is, cocoyam, it can be sliced, but if you peel it and dry it, you can use it for gari. And so this is the same product. Now you're showing it in its different forms. Somebody who doesn't have an experience of what cassava is, many Nigerians know that already, but imagine somebody was abroad and you show them that, this is cassava. You can also use it for cassava flakes. Now you're expanding the idea of your product in the minds of the people, creating a more compelling story of what your product is and how it can be used. And so next we have brand consistency. So like I tried to explain earlier, and color treatment is not just the only way you can achieve brand consistency. For example, you can see here all the pictures are black and white. There's something else that's consistent with all the pictures. What is that? Motion, thank you. There's something else, the physical element. Sports, yes, this is like a graphic element, sorry. Fitness, yes. There's a graphic element that makes black and white, thank you. Thank you. Yellow frame. Thank you. Are you saying that? So it means that I can make multiple pictures in this same format if it's on my website. And because it's consistent every time, whenever people see something like this, they know it's my brand. And so you can achieve this through photography. Okay? And then composition is another thing that shows what a good picture can look like. So what you have here is an orange. And what you have there is also an orange, just in different, they're composed differently. And the difference between two of them is what we call the rule of thirds. Now, how do you operate the rule of thirds? The rule of thirds means that you bring your products and you focus it on 1/3 of your frame. So many of us have that element on our phone where you can show your grid. You can use that for your rule of thirds, to show what your rule of thirds are. And one interesting thing about the rule of thirds is sometimes it's good because you can actually have maybe graphic elements on your left talking about what your product is and what your product does and stuff like that. Okay? Before you take the pictures. You can do it before and after. Yes, but I mean, preferably before if that's what you purposed it for already. Now, I'm trying to show you composition. What's this? This is cassava, but it feels like they arranged it. It's not like that first picture that we saw. They just cut everything. It's arranged. It feels nice. Depending on who your target audience is. If you're exporting, you don't need to do all this stress. Just ensure that you show multiple trailers of your cassava and show people that don't let them dress fine. No. Let them be carrying heavy stuff. These ones are serious with their business. But because you are trying to attract a different set of people, depending on your context, okay? And so composition can just change everything. You could have dropped the 2 pieces of yam and just snap it like that. But when you compose it well, it tells a good story. See another example. Just cassava, but so nicely arranged. All right? Now, storytelling. Storytelling is another way you can make your product photography great. And how does this work? I'm going to talk about branding later, but I'll show you how much more it works when we get to that point. But you see, in storytelling, what you're doing is that you're ensuring that the way your products are photographed goes in alignment with the story you are telling. That's the reason why the Coca-Cola bottle will always be photographed with people happy and smiling. And the Pepsi bottle will most likely be photographed with one person who is drinking it or a celebrity who is holding it like this. You must have seen those kind of pictures before. Different stories are being told by different brands with different products. So let the story that is being told with your brand align, or let the pictures that you are taking with your products align with the story that you are telling with your brand. Okay? Photography serves as a visual language that speaks to the audience, evoking emotions, and reinforces your commitment to your mission. This is why you want to take your storytelling very seriously. So what equipment do you need and what tools do you need? Very simple. Number one, you need a camera. So like I said at the beginning, it doesn't have to be a fancy camera. If you have a fancy camera, by all means, please use it. But if not, start with what you have. Let that not be an excuse. Number two, you need a tripod. You can get a cheap one. Now, the reason why you want to use a tripod is because it can help you stabilize your pictures. If we're using your hand to take the pictures, it may shake, it may be blurry. But when you use a tripod, it becomes easier, you know. And another thing that's good about the tripod is the fact that you can change the position of your pictures and maintain the same frame, such that when you are editing, you don't need to do too many cropping compared to when you have to use your hand to take it every single time. Your position will always change. But if you're on the tripod, it's going to be there. All you need to do is remove the product, change, snap, remove, change, snap, and you're maintaining the same frame for all the pictures. So it's very important. And number three is lighting. Lighting is, I dare say, the most important element. Have good lighting. If you don't have any extra lights, just use the sunlight. I'm telling you, sunlight is very good. Use the sunlight and let that be your starting point, okay? But if not, you can get a soft box, you can get a diffuser, studio lights, you can get LED, whatever kind of lights you can get that you can afford. Even a ring light can work in many cases. So just do as much as you can. But your lighting is going to dramatically change the quality of your pictures, dramatically. So if you want to pay attention to great pictures, ensure that you have good lighting. Next, we need a backdrop. Depending on the type of product that you have, there's some products that do better on a backdrop and some others don't. And that's why I showed you the picture at the beginning. Remember what I showed you earlier about the product image. The product image where we had the shoes on the white background. Now, those kind of pictures are good for your website. And I'll show you an example of that later in the presentation. You don't use your context pictures for your product sales. The reason is, when you're trying to sell the product online on your website, what you want people to see is the products. You use your context pictures on social media because that's where you're trying to sell the emotion. On your website, what you want to do is sales. Now, you may have some context pictures on your website, but they won't be your product pictures. So you want to ensure that you have a backdrop so that your background is plain. If you don't have a backdrop, you might try to use a plain background as possible, and there are tools that you can use to remove backgrounds from products nowadays. There's remove.bg, you can remove background on Canva, so many other tools. But to make it easier for you, try to get a backdrop so that it's not going to be a hassle. Another thing you may need is also reflectors. Reflectors help you get rid of shadows, and they help you balance out the light in places where there may not be a lot of light. Okay, so now by reflectors, we're already getting a little advanced, but if it gets to that and you want the best quality, why not? Please go ahead. Next, we need photo editing software. So most of the easy ones are Lightroom. You can also edit your pictures with Canva. And like I said, remember, you can make consistency with your products by using the same photo treatment. So on Lightroom, if you have a preset, for example, or on Canva, you can choose one particular edit, maybe sepia 20%. Such that every time when you're editing your picture, you just add a 20% sepia on your picture. That consistency every single time will make your brand synonymous with that type of picture. Okay? And then lastly, props and styling accessories. Depending on the type of product that you have, you may want to get props. You know, you've seen some of those pictures that have leaves behind them. You know, you've seen all those pictures like they'll be in the water. If it's a lifestyle product, you want to put in all those extra efforts. But if not, you can do without them, okay? Now, brands that use visuals for storytelling and how they do that, now they use it for, connecting emotionally. So you want to pay attention to that. And they also use it for telling impactful stories. That's why I told you that the story that your brand is telling should align with the kind of pictures that you use. If you are a luxury brand, okay, and you are selling convenience, you are selling prestige, a conductor should not wear your shoe and you snap the picture. Even if you find the picture, you delete it. And you throw it away. Why? Because of the picture and the story you are telling. The only person you would take wearing your shoe is somebody who is walking into a bank, a king in a palace, a celebrity on stage, if you are a luxury brand. Now, if you are a brand that's for the masses, you want to avoid those kind of pictures. because the people you are trying to target will believe that it is not within their financial capacity. And so you're not segregating, you're just showing the right people the right pictures to see, because people want to feel among in their class. So ensure that you tell the right story with your products at every point in time. And that's one of the ways that your pictures can do that. Another thing that good pictures will do is also help you maintain your brand identity, especially with your consistency and when you apply your logos on the pictures. Your pictures also want to be memorable. So especially when you have context pictures, try to make them as memorable as possible. Try to make them as interesting as possible so that people have a memory of a picture that will not just easily go away. Okay? Next, like I said, consistency in visual styling and perceived quality. These are how brands use products. Now let's talk about product photography specifically. Okay? For your products, what kind of pictures should you have for your product? I'll show you a few types of pictures you want to have for your product. Number one is a hero shot. And we saw a picture of what a hero shot looks like, where you have your picture alone, no distractions. No distractions. This is the same thing for a gamepad. No distractions. No text, no background, no props, no nothing. Just your product in all its glory, undisturbed. That way, people can see your product and appreciate it for what it is. Apart from your hero shots, you also want to have your lifestyle shots. Okay? Now, lifestyle shots are a version of the contextual pictures that I mentioned earlier, showing how your product can be used. Now, sometimes your product may not be able, you can't exactly show how your product can be used. You don't always have to show how it's used in the context of people maybe drinking from it. You can just show it in the right context. Like this drink, for example. You're showing it in the right context. This drink is great for hanging out with your friends. If this was a Coca-Cola bottle, you would have the similar background. You know, people, family at a dining table, and you just see a picture of a Coca-Cola on the table, and they'll take the picture. Because that's how the product is used in real life. Okay? Next are detail shots. Remember what I told you, that your product's photography is an opportunity for you to show some details. This is the ring I was talking about that the guy was trying to find for his girlfriend. And this picture was the picture that sold it for him. Because all the other ring pictures, he was just seeing the rings big. But when he got to this picture, he saw a detail of what the ring diamond really looked like. And he was like, this is what I need for my fiancé. Okay, so it makes all the difference when you actually have detail shots. And detail shots also help you show the level of craftsmanship in your products. Many of you might have seen tailors who sew clothes, and they do a close-up on this part of the cloth. And what they are trying to show you is that we paid attention to every detail. Because most times, many clothes that are not great, you see the threading is not great. You know, it's dancing all around. And you say, this person is not a great tailor. But when you see some people, they want to show you that, look, we're not joking here. They take those kind of pictures, and you can verify that, oh no, these guys pay attention to detail. So you want to ensure that you have detail shots as well, as the case may be, depending on your product. And then scale and context shots. Now, the reason why this is important is there are some products, apart from putting the dimension on your website, you want to show what size it is. Let me give you a good example. If this picture wasn't here, you would almost assume this was a paint bucket, because this is the way paint buckets are. Okay? But when you contextualize it by putting it in somebody's hand, you can show that this is not a big product, though. It is small. Do you understand? And then how you are proving that is by showing somebody's hand and letting people see what size it is compared to someone's hand. If you took this product as a standalone, you will leave it for people's imagination. So apart from having your hero shots where you have this standing alone, you want to have pictures like this that show what size it actually is. And all you are doing is trying to help your customers. I know you've written the details there on the website. All the customers don't have rulers in their hands. You know, so it's not like everybody has a tape measure in their pockets. So when they see a product, they will now measure. No. What you want to do is help them as much as possible. And by doing this, you are making it so much easier for them to imagine what the size is and know how it works. Okay? And then 360-degree shots. When you have stuff like this, it makes all the difference. You know, it's so immersive. Everybody just feels like now I really have to get this, because now they can see your product in all its glory. So having a 360-degree shot is also very, very helpful. And then action shots, depending on type of product. If you can have an action shot for your product, why not? If it's honey, for example, you can just show the honey dripping from the bottle. Those tiny details. Yeah, you are trying your best to communicate the emotion of your product to the customers. Okay? Just like the picture with the cream. You just saw the hand moving with the cream. Sometimes, if you can do a video, do a video. If not, if you can't do a video, just the imagination of motion can help with simulating an experience of bliss for your products. Next, let's talk about how to create an appealing online profile. And the reason why this is important is, first, you need a good picture. So your good picture is now going to come in handy here. And we're going to do practically, we're going to set up our profiles. So for those who have set them up before, this is a good opportunity for you to also update your profile. Before we go into module 2, do I have any questions from anybody? Okay. 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 So for the products, we're actually going to do practicals here. So you'll actually see it even in real life. But that's why I use the shea butter and then the cassava as examples when I was trying to explain it. But we'll have more practicals, so you'll see it in real time. Thank you. Yes. Okay, so for services, how you do this with services is you need to show the end product of what your service can do. So for example, if I was offering, let me give an example. If I was offering, what kind of service? Can I have an example of a service? Hairstyling is a service, right? Most of the pictures that I'll show will be finished products of my service. Not just finished products of my service, but good feedback from using my service. So, and you want to communicate emotions as well. If you're doing a service like hairstyling, it means that the person who is going to be in your picture needs to look happy. Why? Because you're trying to communicate to the people that when you use my service, you not just get a good quality, you also feel happy as well. So think about the end goal. For example, for schools, universities, it's a service they're offering, education. Many times on their brochures, what you see is people working. So what they're trying to show you is, when you come to our school, we will make you employable and you can get a job at the biggest possible fairs. That's why when they have trade fairs, they bring people who are working in big organizations, come as a testimonial to prove the evidence of their service to the people. So that's what you want to focus on if you're offering a service. The end goal, the end result of what your service looks like and how people feel after using your service. Does that work? Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you. Now, how this will work for someone like me is 2 ways. Number 1 is talking about it in real time. Okay, so I can have pictures of me training people. For example, you saw the pictures from the last training. So somebody will see that, I'm like, oh, wow, this guy can teach people how to do this. Okay, maybe he wants to teach me too. So that's something I can do. Apart from that is also, I can do a video testimonial from people who are here. There are video testimonials of people, and they'll just talk about how they felt while there was the training, how much more they know now compared to what they knew before. And for the best part, I can come back 1 year later, do an interview for them, and they talk about how 1 year ago I was at your training and I changed this, and this. And then the best part is when you give facts and figures. And between then and now, we've 10x our sales because we did this and this and that when he gave us this advice. So that's the kind of thing that someone like me would do. Thank you so much. Any other question before we proceed? All right, so let's go into types of digital presence, okay? First, which is one of the most basic, is company websites. And here's the interesting thing, and it will shock you, but not every website needs a business. Not every business needs a website. Some of the biggest businesses in the world exist without a website. And the reason why I'm trying to help you understand this is, who is your target audience? So if your target audience is not going to find you on a website, you may not bother with a website. Okay? But if it's useful for your type of business, then by all means, please get a website. Now I'm going to show you some of the things that you will find on the website. What you can see here is what I tried to explain earlier. You remember when I told you about the rule of thirds? Okay? So this is a picture in the rule of thirds, and we have text here. How many of you remember when I said rule of thirds? Okay, so this is a good example of what that looks like. You can see that the picture of the product is very clear, and here you can even see the products in context. But it's not a full image where you are seeing everything. It's an undisturbed image of the product on a model. Okay? So these are the kind of things you would have on your website. I'm sorry, I want to be sure that I'm not overshooting my time. Okay. These are the kind of products that you would have on your website. Pictures that have your products clearly stated, and many times with graphic elements that talk about what your product is and what it does. Okay? And so these are the kind of things you see on a company website picture. Now, there's a part where you start to see the product images, and as you can see, these are hero shots, because this is where people click when it's actually time to buy. So as you click on it, you go there, you start to see all the details about the product. But what you are looking at is an undisturbed image of your product in all its glory. Okay? Now, another form of digital presence that you'll find is social media presence. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this, when you look through this, you can hardly find a product image here. Is that true or not? So the question is why? Do you think they don't want to make sales? Why won't they post their products on social media? The reason is that social media is social media. Let me explain it to you this way. How many of you here have posted a picture of you on Instagram or Facebook? Let me see your hands. You posted a picture of yourself. All right. Just yourself. No, just yourself. Maybe with your friends or alone. Just at an event. You went somewhere. Good. Now, how many of you have posted a banner or a design, maybe Happy New Year, or a banner from an event you were going to attend? How many of you have done that? Good. Now, let me ask you, the level of engagement you got from posting your picture and posting the picture of the banner, which had a higher level of engagement? Your picture, do you know why? Your personality? Okay, any other reason? Connection? Thank you. Thank you. Any other person? They know you. They know you. So the reason why people followed you on Instagram is because they wanted to see more of you. Do you understand? That's a very key element. It's social media. What is social? Social is interaction. All of us here, the way we will be like this when it's time for break, this is not how we will be if we had been classmates for 2 years. Why? If we've been classmates for 2 years, there are some jokes I'll be cracking that everybody will be laughing. When it's time for lunch break, you will just be hearing noise. Why? Because everybody has something to talk about. The last lecturer, he did this, he did that. Why? Because we have become more social because of the amount of time we have spent with each other. And here's what happens. On the internet, the people who follow you have an idea of you in real life. So when they come online, they want to see more of you. They don't want to see banners. If they want to see banners, they can Google banners if they want to see. That's why they don't interact with those banners as much. And it's not because the design is not great, no matter the design. It is social media. Now, I'm trying to help you understand this and move it to your brand. The people who resonate with your brand online are doing that because of how they feel, not so much about the product. Except your social media account is your online store. Because there are people like that. There are people who sell their products online. All you see on their Instagram is clothes. You just see they'll post the clothes, price. No DM for price. Just send a picture, send a screenshot, I will make payment for you. Now, those people use their Instagram accounts as a website. So all those people, you will not see them posting pictures of themselves. Why? Because people didn't come to see their people's face. They came to see clothes or shoes. Do you understand? So that's how social media works. Social media works in such a way that when you tell people what you're going to give them, more people follow you because they want to see more of that. So if you started your brand on social media, and because people are actually social beings, you want to create content that is social. These are social contents because these are things that people can relate with, either on a relatable level or on an aspirational level. So people can see, for example, this is Nike. People can look at all these great people and look at them and be like, wow, one day I'm going to be like this. Or these are people that they can resonate with. They are celebrities. They've seen them online. When they see them on Instagram, they like the picture immediately. They say, wow, you're such an inspiration. That's social media. Imagine they were posting pictures of shoes and shoes and shoes and shoes. They won't get as much engagement. And what happens on social media is that on social media, you are trying to tell the story of your brand. What does your brand represent? How does it look like? Let me give you an example. If you're selling a luxury item, okay, on social media, what you'll be posting will be luxurious people using your luxury item. Not just your luxury products. You're posting pictures of the people because people resonate with people. So that's very important. So on social media, that's the kind of thing that you want to do. You want to tell the story of your brand. You want to create an emotional connection that people can resonate with. If it's, for example, for Nike, it's greatness. And that's why they post a lot of athletes who are doing great things. For some other brands, is empathy. That's why they post pictures of people who are not in great conditions so that they can empathize with them. Some other people is excitement, like Red Bull. On Red Bull's Instagram accounts, you will hardly find a product of Red Bull, the energy drink. All you will see are people who are doing daring feats. Somebody moving from a bicycle, trying to jump over a story building. 3 people trying to fly out from a building. Why? Because Red Bull's tagline is, Red Bull gives you wings. So when they post pictures online, what they are posting is pictures that Red Bull has already given wings. Now, what are they doing? They are doing extraordinary things. And that's all they post on their social media. Things that tell the story of what your brand looks like. So if your brand is positioned as a healthy alternative to something, that's the story you want to tell online. Healthy alternatives for whatever exists. And so on your website, on your Instagram, you'll be posting, on your social media, what you'll be posting will just be about healthy alternatives. It may not even be about your products. It can just be healthy alternatives to different things. And because that's the idea that you are placing in people's minds, they affiliate that concept of healthy alternatives to your products. And because of that, they buy your products more. You are basically, how it works is that you have created an emotion, okay? You have attributed that emotion to your products. Now, what you are doing on social media is painting a picture of that emotion in expression on social media. That's how it works. So what people now do, because you have created that link between your product, the emotion, and the experience, is that they affiliate the experience with your products because you've connected your product with because you've connected your product and the experience with that emotion. So that's what you want to do on social media instead of just posting new pictures of your products. And so on e-commerce marketplaces, very similar to your websites, what you want to have are very, very good product photos. Okay, product photos that are not distracting, simple instructions, bestseller, Nike Air Max, men's shoes, 9 colors. If you're selling shoes, if you're selling whatever kind of product that you're selling, if it's a healthy product, you list the health benefits there because you want to give them as much information as possible so that they know exactly what your product is and does. One other place that you want to ensure that you at least get a listing on is Google My Business. And the reason why you want to do that is because Google is a data marketplace for the whole world, literally. And one of the first places that people will try to find you is on Google. And if you're not there, they would assume that you're a scam. So go on Google My Business, just search Google My Business, create your profile, and then add your location, put your contact details, have a virtual online presence so that people can actually see that you're a real brand and you work somewhere. Okay, so online product. Sorry, my internet is out again. Okay, so now in the afternoon session, we're going to go over creating a profile on the matchmaking platform. So many of the things that I've mentioned already will come to play here. You know, the kind of pictures that you will take, the details you will have. Now, it's going to be practical enough such that we would actually take pictures here. You will take pictures with your phone, and you can use those pictures you took with your phone and upload them on your platform so that you are already giving the best impression possible from now on. All right, so we're going to go over that in the next session. So some of the things that you want to do on an online platform like this is, number one, you want to ensure that you have a clear business description so that people know exactly what your business does very, very precisely and not leave it to chance. Okay. Next thing is you want to have an overview of your product and your service. So you want to give detailed description of what you do, the benefits. If it's a healthy alternative for another product, you want to list what the health benefits are, what the difference is, what the selling point is, what makes your product unique, and why it's different from other products. And then high quality visuals, like we have emphasized already, which we're also going to have pictures taken today. And if possible, you want to have customer testimonials and reviews, especially on platforms like Google My Business. Okay, on the matchmaking tool, maybe very soon there will be an update like that, but you want to have this ready at least for any other online listing platform that you have to improve your reputation online so that people trust you more, because the more people who give testimonials for your business, the more people trust that you're a good and reliable business. Another very important information is to include your contact details, which you will find the slots for you to include that on the matchmaking tool, so that you will be easily accessible when people want to reach out. And then links to your social media as well, so that people who want to reach you in other places to get a reinforcement for why they should purchase from you have good access to find information about you online. Okay? And then you also want to use optimized SEO keywords. Now, the key to SEO keywords are find out what people who are looking for your product will search for. Okay? Not what you call your product. For example, if your product is cassava and you are selling the finished product of Gary, okay? Now, depending on who you're trying to sell to, if the people you're trying to sell to know Gary as cassava flakes, you want to optimize your SEO for that particular word, Okay, so SEO is not about you. Find out the people who need your products. What do they call it? How do they try to find it? Another good example would be if you have a healthy product, for example, like a product that removes blemish from the skin or something like that. You want to find out that people who have this particular skin issue, number one, what do they call the skin issue? You know, I've heard about acne. You know, I'm not a skincare guy, but now there may be a professional name for it. But because the people who have the problem don't know the professional name, you need to use the name that they know. Are you following me so far? Exactly. So it's about them, not about you. Just like for our children, when your child tells you to explain something to them, you don't go technical on them. You speak their language. Exactly what you're doing on SEO. Speak the language of the people who need your products. How do they describe it? What would they typically search for when they are looking for your product? Those are the keywords that you want to ensure that you have on your website, on your social media platforms, and all of that. And then data analytics and insights will be very useful on online listening tools as well, because you'll find out how many people have visited, where they're visiting from, where they clicked from before they came to your Google, to your page. Now, the reason why that information is important is you can optimize for ensuring that you put more attention to the places where you have the highest traffic coming from, so that you're not just spending money across board on every platform in case one platform isn't doing as well as the other. So you know how to divide your money and ensure that you are spending money in the right place. And then online ads and campaigns are another way, especially for B2C, but even B2B works as well, such that you are able to create ads, reach out to people who would not have otherwise found your business because of digital marketing. All right? Okay, so lastly, before we proceed to the practical session, what makes a great brand? And this is something that is very important. I've talked about some elements, and those things that I've mentioned are elements of what makes your product look very good. But like I tried to tell you earlier, your brand is beyond your product. Way beyond your product. So two people can have the same product and position very, very differently. So the first question is, what makes a great brand? I want to ask and get opinions. What do you think makes a brand great? Why would you go to the store? Okay, you find Ariel, you find Omo. I said Omo. Omo doesn't exist anymore. Ariel, Omo still exists. Oh my God, I haven't seen it in a long time. There's still Omo. Wow, I haven't seen it in a while. Okay, so there's interesting. So there's Ariel, there's Omo, there's Sunlight, there's Clean, there's Mama, Viva Gold. Why? What informs which detergent we choose? Because in reality, they do almost the same thing. Let's not lie to ourselves. Right? So why do we choose one and not the other? Let me hear from you. I want to hear from you. Oh, because of the lemon freshness. Okay, that's a fair point. Any other person? Interesting.
When I went to Lagos to buy, I didn't see. They said that they have issues. But I was still looking for it in the Gary market.
Interesting.
Just like no.
No. Oh, so you're used to it. Interesting. Thank you so much. Any other person?
I use Ariel because
Oh
I use the same area because it's not harsh.
my. Because it's not harsh. Okay. Any other person? Okay. Thank you. Any other person? Persil. Interesting. Thank you. Any other person? I want to hear from this area. I've not heard anybody here. Thank you. Area foam's better. Oh, so you like the foam. Interesting. Are you realizing how the reasons why we choose particular products many times is not a function of how much more it cleans our clothes. Because trust me, if I sold you, and sometimes maybe just a fragrance, sometimes we're used to a particular fragrance. But apart from that, when it comes to the actual work that detergent does, when it comes to cleaning clothes, they're almost all the same thing. So why does Mrs. Sarah believe that Ariel takes away all stains? Because they said so. They advertised it. They will do a video. They will pour Omo, they will pour dust, they will pour tomatoes, then they will put in the detergents, wash, in 2 wash. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. Wow, it's so clean. Right? Now, what those ads have done is that they have created an impression in our minds that even if somebody came to tell us it was not real, it would be difficult to convince us otherwise. It's just like wrestling. Many of us, the day I found out that wrestling was fake, I argued. It's not real, oh. Yes, good, I've converted someone else. So I was in secondary school, and there was this guy that came from America. He came to my school, he had an accent. All of us, nobody had an accent. Somehow I was close to him, and then he was talking about how it's all fake. I said, you don't mean it. He said, yes, they're just acting. I couldn't believe it. We were arguing with him, and then we now had to watch some clips, and then we saw it, and we're just like, oh my God. We thought Undertaker was dangerous. If we saw Undertaker in our dreams, we would be scared. And I'm just trying to show you the power of visuals. Hulk Hogan, yes, all these guys. He would just tear his shirts. Now, obviously, they were strong, but all those things that were happening were not actually damaging them in the way that we imagined. You would see them, they would jump on the floor, you would hear sound, and you would think, oh my God, this guy is dying. But it's all scripted. They knew who was going to win before they started the match. Okay, good. Now I'm just trying to show you the picture of what visuals can do, what a story that you tell can do. It can create an impression in people's minds depending on how well you tell the story. And visual ads are one of the ways that you can tell stories, but there are many other ways you can tell a story. So what makes a great brand? And I'm going to give you a few answers. When you look at these brands, all right, now close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Tell me the first logo you saw. Toyota. Interesting. Now, there's an argument that depending on what your last interaction was, will determine what logo you see first. So can I say those who saw LinkedIn first, you were on LinkedIn not long ago? And it's just association. Because it wasn't long before you saw it. When your eye scans through something, you go to what is most familiar. And that's the reason why when we come into this place, when we all leave and come back in, we don't think, where is the best place to sit? You just go to where you sat down before because it works. Like, there's no reason to change it. And so what a brand is and what a brand is trying to achieve, I'm going to show you very soon. Let me show you this picture. Oh, my network again. So sorry. Okay, good. All right. Now, how many of you know what kind of a laptop this is? This is a MacBook, right? This is a MacBook. How many of you know what a MacBook is? Okay, good. Now, this is a MacBook, and this is a Dell laptop, okay? Now, for those of you who know both products, can I ask what the major difference is? If you've used both of them, if you use the Dell, if you've used the MacBook, if you use both products, can you tell me what the difference is? Or even if you haven't used it, if you've perceived it and you're seeing people using it, what do you think the difference is? Because you're used to your Windows. Oh, interesting. Oh my. Okay, any other person? Okay. It's more user friendly. All your devices. All right. Any other person? You were saying something? Okay. 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 Now, let me ask you, if I'm going to ask you like this, okay? MacBook or Dell, which is more creative? MacBook, okay. MacBook or Dell, which is more sturdy? Dell. Let me ask you this question, okay? Where and at what point did the producers of the MacBook tell you that the MacBook is more creative? Where and at what point did the users of Dell tell you that Dell was more sturdy? They will never actually use those words, but they will communicate the ideas to you. One of the reasons why a marketing agency or an ad agency or a startup, when you enter a startup, what kind of laptops do you find there? No, in a startup, most startups you find MacBooks. Yeah, you just see MacBooks. If you go to a consulting company, McKinsey, Deloitte, you will most likely find Dells, HPs, IBMs. And the reason is because the producers have sold different ideas to different people. And I'm going to show you some of their ads, and you'll see why. The makers of the MacBook and Apple products are people who have majored on innovation and creativity. Okay? And so when they sell their products as tools for innovation and creativity. And they don't do that by saying, hey, everybody, our MacBook is for innovation and creativity. If you want to be creative and innovative, use a MacBook. No, they don't do it like that. How they do it is through different stories that they tell, through different ads, the kind of words that they use, the kind of visuals that they convey, the kind of packaging that they use. Let me ask you a question here. If you've seen a MacBook package, the plain package, how many of you have seen it before? If you haven't seen it, I'll tell you what's on it. When you get the package, it's completely white, and all you see is a picture of the product on it. And then when you go to the back, you will now see all the details, tiny, 1.2 gigahertz, 5 mm. Now, compared to some other products like maybe a Dell or a HP, you'll see quad-core Intel i5. They'll write everything on the cover. They'll show the laptop with lights around it. And now, Apple is trying to sell the idea of simplicity. Okay? Many other devices are trying to sell the idea of efficiency. So they're telling two different stories. Now, none is a bad or a good story. They are just targeting different people. I personally was using a Dell before, and then I switched to a MacBook. And it was a hard switch because, first of all, there's natural scrolling, and then I had to change my command to shift. But after a while, when I went back to Windows, I couldn't believe I was using Windows before. Because now it feels like this is so much easier. But the point I'm trying to make is different products, apart from the technical specifications of the product, it's the story that they have told about the product. Honestly, you can do great work with either tools. But because we are more emotional than we give ourselves credit for, we are very emotional. And that's why I'm going to explain what branding is. So this is an example of a MacBook ad. Innovation, the new Apple MacBook Air, weighing only 3 pounds, 0.7 inches thick. That's all. No information about the processing speed. No information about any other technical details. This is a Dell. You can see the electric shock. You can see the processing speed, i9 10 Gen Alcon, i9 processor, terms and conditions apply, and all of that. Now, they are selling to different types of people. In fact, I can tell you that there are some tech nerds that will never use a MacBook because they have crossed the threshold of the effects that Apple can have on people. Because they are all about efficiency. They were like, why would I buy this processor for this amount and buy, you find those kind of people, I'm just like, I don't care about this. Just leave me on my MacBook, right? And it's fine. It's not a problem. The fact that brands have effects on us because we want our brands to also have effects on people. And we do it every time. We're trying to create impressions in people's minds. So, what is a brand? What brand is this? Coca-Cola. What brand is this? Pepsi. And I've tried to show the difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi in a few words earlier, but it's definitely not about the taste. Let me tell you how convinced I am that it's not the taste. They did a test, and I watched the video live. They poured Coca-Cola and Pepsi in different bottles, and they served different people. And here's the interesting fact. They did the test for a Pepsi executive. That's a C-level Pepsi executive, and he couldn't tell the difference. So I'm actually telling you that it's not about the taste. It's something else entirely, and I'm going to help you understand what that thing is and how you can apply it for your own brand. Oh my, where are my pictures? So sorry, let me try to connect again. So let me start by trying to help you understand what a brand is. A brand is an emotional connection. That's the first word. It's an emotional connection. When you understand that it's an emotional connection, you realize how to play your cards the right way to attract the right kind of people. And what branding is you are servicing that emotional connection between you as a product owner and the customers as consumers of your products. And I'll show you in more details how that relationship can blossom. Okay. Okay, so I have a good definition here. What is a brand? We can write this down. A brand is the emotional and psychological relationship that a company has with its audience. Emotional and psychological. So what your job is that you need to understand who your audience is, how do they think, how do they perceive, how do they judge, how do they live, and then ensure that you target your products to reach them. A brand is the emotional and psychological relationship a company has with its audience, and branding is a process of creating and managing that relationship. So the reason why some people will spend more on a product than another product may not be so much about the quality of the product, but what the brand represents. And a strong brand is built on shared values, a clear vision, a commitment to excellence, and it drives customer loyalty and business success. Let me help you understand what another thing that branding is. Branding is consistency. Let me explain it to you this way. We all have friends, don't we? Right? Now, when it's time to go to the market and you want to get the best prices at the market, you know there's a friend you can take and you'll get the best prices. Because that friend can price. And the reason why you know that that friend can price is because you've seen them pricing before. You've seen them shouting at their sisters, "What? Why did you buy that for 50K? You could have bought it for 32K. You should have called me, I would have come." And so the more of that you see, You start to see that person as a pricer. So when you want to go to the market and you want to get the best price, you can beg them, I'll buy something for you, just follow me to the market. That's what branding is. The same thing, we have friends that are gentle. When it's time to make trouble, you won't call them. When you're in the bus, for example, and a conductor does anyhow to somebody in the bus, when your gentle friend is trying to talk, you say, let him talk. Because you know this friend that is not calm is going to change it for everybody and make everything all right. Now, when it's time to make peace, you're fighting with somebody and you want somebody to come and make peace between two of you. He's not that friend you will call. Why? Because all that friend will do is add fire to the flame. You will call another friend entirely. Why do we do that? Because we have been able to identify different people are good at different things. And we can only identify that because they have consistently shown that. So your peacemaking friend, every time when there's something happening, everybody calm down. Don't kill yourselves. Life is just, take it easy. What's the problem? Okay, you go. Don't worry. I'll sort it out. You stay. You don't move. But there's the other friend. If everybody doesn't clear this place, everybody will see fire in this place. I don't want any trouble. They do that every time. So because they have consistently shown that behavior, you have attributed that behavior to them. They did not at any point tell you, me, I'm not okay upstairs. So if you want to cause trouble anywhere, just call me. Nobody does that. Even your peacemaking friend doesn't say, I'm very gentle. Anytime you don't want any trouble, just call me. I'll make peace for you. No, you come to that conclusion yourself. Why? Because of what you have seen. Because of the evidence that you have. Let me use a real life example for you to understand how branding can work. There are some brands in Nigeria. Let me give you a good example. How many of you know if you want to buy sugar, okay, cubed sugar in the supermarket, and you want to buy the best, which one would you buy? Have you ever seen a St. Louis ad before? Has anybody referred St. Louis to you? Why do we have that? Why was it that there was no mistake about which brand to choose? They've been consistent. I've never gotten a St. Louis sugar. I picked the sugar and the sugar was broken. I don't want to mention some other brands, but there are some other brands of sugar. Once I buy it, as I put it in my car, I'm seeing ants already. Even though they put wrapper around it, ants will be in my car. By the time I get home, I have to put it in another wrapper. Why? They are not paying as much attention. But St. Louis, once I buy it, I can take it home. Once I open it and close it, I'm sure nothing is going to happen. That's what branding can do consistently. They have consistently delivered quality. And so we have attributed that level of quality to St. Louis. And so when we want the best, we think St. Louis. Now, branding, as much as it's not about the product, it starts from the product. So if your product is not great, forget about this branding thing. Go and work on your products. But if you have a great product and you want to ensure that it reaches the right people, then you want to pay attention to the things I'm saying. Okay? So how do you want to build that connection? And you see, great brands don't just happen. You have to put in a lot of work to make that happen. Brand excellence is creating a culture of consistently. What are you doing? You are delivering on your brand promise every time. There was a time MTN's slogan was, everywhere you go. Now they've changed it to what? What are we doing today? Now, let me tell you what has happened. Initially, they were selling an idea of, we are everywhere, relax. Anywhere you go, you'll find us. Now, they have achieved that. And because they have achieved that, they want to move on to the next thing. Now, they are telling a new story of empowerment. That MTN is a tool that will empower you to reach your dreams. So that's why they ask you, what are we doing today? So they are now telling a different story entirely. The same brand, but a different focus entirely. There's another brand that is like MTN. But whenever you want to make an example of a slow network, there's a particular brand that comes to everybody's mind. I don't want to call the name of the brand, but we all have the same answer in our minds. The reason why we all have the same answer is because they have consistently fallen in our hand. that when there's a problem, you say, are you using this network? They'll say yes. You say, why now? They'll say, why now? Go and change your SIM. So the fact that we all have that is because they have consistently not delivered on their promise, and we know them for that. So what you want to do as a brand is, if you want to be a remarkable brand, you must deliver on your promise. If you promise quick delivery time, you must deliver quick delivery time. If you promise whatever you promise, ensure that you deliver. That's how to be a great brand. And different brands focus on different things. Okay? For example, Apple focuses on design and customer experience. That's why their products are the way they are. They are not the only one making computers. Samsung is making computers. Zynox is making computers. Huawei is making computers. Dell is making computers. HP is making computers. But different people are focusing on different things. So your job is to ensure that you focus on the people you are trying to reach. And we're going to get into exactly how you can do that. Okay? Nike as a brand is also building an emotional connection with customers through storytelling. That's why they do a lot of ads. And in most of their ads, all they're always trying to tell is a story of greatness, possibility. It's like they're always just trying to motivate you. Now, the reason why that works is because athletes are always trying to reach for greatness. Athletics is one of those places where you're always trying to be the best. There's no room for slacking. You went for this competition, there's another competition coming. You have a record, you need to break it. And so they are selling the emotion of greatness, that we can empower you to be great. So now, even though we are not athletes, we want to wear Nike shoes because we want to have that feeling of possibility. So that's what branding can do. Coca-Cola is consistently reinforcing their brand values and identity through marketing campaigns. And one of the things that they're selling is community and happiness. And you've seen that in many of their ads and even in our minds. And so let's go into details. How do you achieve this? Number one is you need to define your brand identity. So let's get practical, okay? Let me use a product, okay? Let me use Macarius View Dates, all right? Now, this is date powder, okay? What's this? Date powder. Now, what does it do? You use it as a sweetener, am I right? Depending on who you are trying to reach. If you are trying to reach young people and you want them to stop using sugar and start using dates, there are many approaches you can take, but you need to first start from defining your brand identity. Now, what does your brand identity look like? If your brand was a person, what would the name of your brand be? Who would your brand be like? What would your brand look like? What does your brand value? What is the focus of your brand? And I'll explain it to you this way. There are many people that make date powder. Let's assume that different people are focusing on different things, okay? Now, there's a date powder brand that can focus on being a healthy alternative. Now, all they will focus on is reaching out to people who are health conscious and say, instead of all that sugar in your system, use dates. Okay? That's one way you can do that. Now, another brand can say, we don't want to go that route. We want to position ourselves as natural. There are two different things. Positioning yourself as a healthy alternative is different from positioning yourself as natural, as a natural product. So another brand can come and say, we want to position ourselves as a natural product. Now, as a natural product, your approach to your marketing, to your brand identity will be different from the first brand. Although they're synonymous, natural brands are usually healthier. But now what you are focusing on is the fact that you are natural, and not just natural, but local. What you are now doing is that you are selling to people's identity of belonging. You've seen some brands that they write proudly Nigerian. The reason why they do that is because they want Nigerians to see their products and resonate with it as, oh, this is a product from Nigeria, let me purchase because it's Nigerian. If not, why would you write proudly Nigerian? Because you want Nigerians to resonate with your products and, for lack of better words, support by buying your products. Now, another brand can come up who sells these same dates and say, we want to position ourselves as a premium sweetener. So it won't be about dates. It won't be about whether it's natural or healthy. We want to position ourselves as a premium sweetener for the people who know how to live life. The three different people are selling the same products, but they cannot package the same way. The person who is positioned as a healthy product will probably have a lot of greens in their products and their packaging. Why? Because green is synonymous with healthy. The person who is focusing on natural, on positioning themselves as a natural product will probably focus a lot of cream, brown, because those are natural tones, because it's close to earth. Now, the person who wants to position himself as a premium product for those who want to live life, you have a different color system, maybe white, gold, black, something that is not red or blue or green like that, because you're trying to look rich and expensive. In fact, in the product packaging, they will use gold tins, or they will use glass, gold cover. They will just put one small tiny package in front of it. Dates for those who have a date with destiny. I'm just joking. That's not a good one. But find a nice name, or find a nice way to put it. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that three of them are selling the exact same products, but they are positioning differently. So they are all selling to different people. They are telling different stories. Brand A is telling a story of take your health seriously. You have only one life, so live it to the best of your ability. Use dates as an alternative to sugar and live healthy. The natural product is positioning themselves as a natural product that this product is from here, is for us. It's our product. We own it. Let's support our own. We are one and the same. Let's grow the Naira, buy the Naira to grow the Naira. The last brand is positioning themselves as the premium product for those who know how to chop life. And so their products will obviously be the most expensive. Their packaging will be very different. In fact, they will not sell in every supermarket. They will only sell in expensive supermarkets because that's where the people who are positioning, who are their target audience, already exist. Now, my reality, the point I'm trying to help you make is none is better than the other. You just need to find what you are comfortable with and focus on it. Let me give you a good example. Dangote makes Dangote sugar. Dangote sugar is not a premium sugar. But is Dangote making money? So, I'm trying to help you understand that you can make money in either of the... So there's none like... Because it's a premium product doesn't mean you are making premium money. The fact that it's a premium product also means you're going to use premium items. So your cost is obviously higher. So... And it's more expensive to maintain a premium product because you have to say no to many things. So depending on what your focus is, that's why it's important to define your brand identity. Clearly state what your business aims to achieve and how you envision the future of your products or the future of even your brand. And identify the core principles that will guide your business. So as a healthy alternative product, all the things that you identify as your values will be health conscious, related. The one who is doing natural Nigerian, you will focus on citizenship. There's a word for it. I'm trying to find the word. So sorry. Thank you. Patriotism. Here's the interesting thing. Thank you so much. All the three different brands, when they want to sponsor different events, they can't sponsor the same type of events. The healthy alternative brand, when it's time to sponsor an event, they will most likely sponsor a health outreach. They will do something like that. The natural products, they may go and support Super Eagles. Why? Because they are trying to sell patriotism. How can you be patriotic by standing by your country? So they will support the Super Eagles, official dates of the Super Eagles. Now, the premium products will not support Super Eagles and will not position themselves either as doing healthy alternatives. They will position themselves very differently. If they were going to support anything, you'll just see one exclusive brunch that is strictly by invitation. sponsored by Rich Dates. So, because you have defined who you are, it now determines the kind of places you associate with, the people you associate with, how you describe who you are and who you are trying to reach. Okay? And then you have to determine what your unique selling proposition is. The same product, you can focus on different things. So for the luxury brand, you are selling. For the luxury brand, you are selling exclusiveness. This date is not for everybody. This date is only for those who know, only for those who do, only for those who have a high level of taste. The second person is focusing on a different thing entirely, the same product. And the reason why branding is very easy to understand is we can see it everywhere. In the supermarkets. Supermarket is the best way to understand branding. Just go to the supermarket and ask yourself, why is this product more expensive than this product? And sometimes you have the answer. You can see the packaging is different. Sometimes you can see the ingredients are different. Sometimes you can see where they produced it is different. Now, how would these different brands act on social media? We're going to get there. So number one is do what? Define your... come on, answer me now. Define your brand identity. Brand identity is simply identifying who you are and what you want people to see you as. When you define that, that's the beginning. Next thing, know your audience. You must know your audience. The knowledge of your audience will determine the type of packaging you use. Knowing your audience will determine where you sell. Knowing your audience will determine where you advertise. I heard about a particular car brand. How many of us know Rolls-Royce? Rolls-Royce. You must have heard about it or you've seen it somewhere. And we know Benz, and we know Toyota, and all those brands. Obviously, Rolls-Royce is one of the most expensive types of cars. Here's what I found out, or I heard this on social media. I don't know how true it is, but I've seen a picture of it, so I believe it. Rolls-Royce don't attend car shows. The reason is because they are very, very expensive compared to other cars. So most times in car shows, people come to car shows with a particular budget. It's very difficult to go way beyond your budget to buy that kind of car. But guess where Rolls-Royce does their shows? Where they have airplane shows. So you see where there are a lot of airplanes, and then you see Rolls-Royce cars as well. And here's why it's interesting. People who come to buy a jet, if they couldn't buy the jet they wanted, they say, okay, maybe I can just buy a Rolls-Royce. Because people who are there, they are not budgeting. You know, they are budgeting, but the way they budget is not the same. You know, they are not checking every single thing. Those ones have money to spare. And so if they cannot spare the money to buy a jet, they can spare the money to buy a Rolls-Royce. And so the Rolls-Royce has already classified itself by limiting where it can be seen. How many of us know something they call see finish? There are some places we will not go because I don't want you to look at me anyhow. The same thing with your products. Depending on what your goal is. If your product is for the masses, ensure that it's where the masses will be found. Don't go and put it in the airport. If your product is for the creme de la creme, don't go and put it on the street. Take it to the airport. Take it to the VIP lounge. All those things will determine where you sell, how you sell, where you advertise. I say there are some brands now you can advertise. You know, you can put banners outside. Why? Because your product is for the masses. But there's some products that can't do that. If you're not advertising in exclusive, how many of us have seen? There's a watch brand. The name is skipping my head. Rolex. Have you seen a Rolex banner in public before? Have you seen it in newspaper before? Where will you see it? In all those magazines in the hotel. When you go to one rich place, all those magazines that you just be seeing watches, you'll be seeing the price, you just be like, what's going on here? That's where they advertise, because that's where the people that can afford it usually sit down when they are passing time. They're just, Meanwhile, you won't see Dangote Sugar there. Sir? Good. So they're selling luxury. Knowing your audience will determine where you sell, where you advertise, how you position yourself. All these things are very important. Knowing your audience. So you need to first identify who they are. When you have identified them, you study them, you listen to them, you know what they like, you know what they don't like, and then you sing a tune that they will dance to. And then you need to do market research as well to know even better who they are. So sorry. Let me connect for the last time. And next, what you want to do is create a visual identity. Create a what? Come on, create a what? Visual identity. I'll tell you what a visual identity is. A visual identity is not equal to a logo. Because that's the first thing that everybody thinks when you hear visual identity. A visual identity is not equal to a logo. A visual identity is anything that serves as a marker for what your brand looks like. Let me give you a good example. If I came to visit you, okay, and I came with one plantain chips. Now that plantain chips, you didn't see any banner on it. All you saw was at the back, there was a black box. Just pasted on black square sticker at the back. You were looking for phone number, you did not see. You were like, I want to buy this plantain juice. I can't find it again. But all you saw was what? A black box at the back. One day you're at the airport, you're trying to catch a flight, and then you're just scrolling through, and you see another plantain chips. No brand on it, and you saw the black box at the back. Would you assume it's come from the same producer or not? Why would you assume that? Because of the consistency. So that's what the visual identity is. It's not so much about the logo. I have a brand, for example. The name of the brand is GIRD, okay? It's GIRD. Now, when you see the logo, it doesn't have, many times when we think of logo, we think this is what a logo is. And then this is the name of your brand. And then this is your tagline. Sir? Yes. Yes. Okay, you know the brand. Oh, interesting. Oh, my. Wow. Thank you. Oh, my. I didn't know. Okay, so now, the logo of that brand is text, GIRD. Okay? And somebody was talking about it on Twitter. They were like, what's up? Why can't these people get a logo? And it just showed the ignorance of the person. Because what a logo does is simply going to be a representative of what your brand is. Sometimes it can be a word mark like GIRD, GIRD. Sometimes it's an icon like this. Sometimes it's a mix where you have an icon and a word mark. Sometimes it's a mascot. For example, how many of us know Dunlop? You know the Dunlop mascot? That's an example of a mascot. Anywhere you see that mascot, you know it's Dunlop. They don't need to write Dunlop. You don't need to see the Dunlop logo. Do you understand? Michelin, thank you. You don't need to see the Michelin logo. Once you see that mascot, because it has been associated long enough, and because the consistency of that mascot has been the same. It's not that one day the mascot was slim, the next day the mascot was fat, the next day the mascot did not have head, the next day the mascot had hair, the next day the mascot was wearing suits. It now becomes difficult to identify the brand. So a visual identity is anything that makes it easy to identify your brand different from other brands. And so number one, logo. You develop a memorable and versatile logo, very simple logo. You don't need to stress yourself about the logo, I assure you. The reason why is because your logo is not as important as keeping the promise of your brand. How many of us know St. Louis that we all love? How many of us know what the logo looks like? We just know there's a lion on it. And they wrote St. Louis. If you saw St. Louis logo somewhere, will you recognize it? Honestly, I won't. I only recognize it on the packaging. And that's not a problem because everybody here knows St. Louis, so they don't even need to do a banner anymore. I mean, they can, but the point I'm trying to make is the fact that we can go into the mall. In fact, somebody can want to try to copy St. Louis and make their packaging blue. Have you noticed St. Louis has not changed the color of their packaging since? Is it because they don't have money? It's because everybody has recognized them with that color of packaging. And so if they change it, it will affect their sales negatively. Because people come into the supermarkets looking for Blue Lion. So one day, and because of how mindless we can be, when you go to the supermarket and you see another blue one, you may not check. Is it St. Louis or not? But because you've seen blue, because there's another person that uses blue, you just pick it. And so that's what branding is. Marking yourself and ensuring that that mark is consistent. Okay? And you can create a brand identity by also having a color scheme. What color represents your brand? You want to make it consistent. Such that today your packaging is red, tomorrow is orange, next tomorrow mixed brown. Let your packaging be consistent. Let your color be consistent. If it's green and red, in fact, it's not any green and any red. Your color needs to have a particular code, such that if your color is black, hashtag 00000, if you send to your logo to somebody in America and to say, please design a logo for me, these are my brand colors, they will use the exact same colors and come up with something similar that will still look like your brand. Why? Because you have consistent colors. So that's the important thing. And then typography. Select the fonts that are legible and reflect your brand's character. We have different types of fonts. And the different types of fonts have different types of effects. So there are some fonts that when you see it, it screams prestige. There are some fonts that when you see it, it screams basic. And there are some fonts that when you see it, it screams old school. Whenever you see a Gothic font, you think ancient. Whenever you see a sans serif font, you think modern. So depending on what the story your brand is trying to tell, you need to find a font type that associates with your story, and you need to keep it consistent. So you don't use Arial today, Trebuchet tomorrow, Helvetica next tomorrow. Consistent typography. Next is building an online presence. And we talked about what your website can look like already. So you want to create a website such that that website is easy to navigate. It provides valuable information about your business. And on your website is where you can also create an impression of what your brand looks like. For example, if people stumble on your website first, before your products, you want to ensure that based on what they see on your website, they can recognize your products in the supermarket. If on your website your colors are black, red, and yellow, and then they go to the supermarket and they find your products green, blue, and gray, before they make the association, it will be difficult. They will need to pay attention to associate it. But if they see black, red, and yellow on your website, and as in the supermarket they are scrolling, they see another black, red, and yellow, they see a similar logo to yours, immediately it becomes easy to identify. That's why consistency is important. So consistency on your website. Ensure that what your website feels like is synonymous with what your product looks like. Same thing with your packaging. Let your packaging reflect who you are trying to attract. And then on social media, you want to do the exact same thing. Establish a profile where your target audience is most attractive. If you are trying to reach Gen Z, okay, you can be on Instagram, you reach a lot of people, but if you're not on TikTok, you haven't started. Because that's where the people you're trying to reach are. If you're trying to reach baby boomers and you're not on Facebook, you're wasting your time. Because that's where the baby boomers are. So you want to ensure that you have established online profiles where your target audience is. And you want to ensure that you reach them as quickly as possible. And then content creation. Another thing you also want to do is you want to regularly produce content that engages and informs your audience. Creating content is like consistently telling your story in different ways. The same way we have different types of ads. And telling your story is not story. One day this brand was created and this is why we exist. That's a theoretical statement of what your brand is. Telling your story can happen through ads, can happen through billboards, can happen through the kind of content that you create. All these different areas are ways that you can create content and tell your story around your brand. And the kind of content you create depends on the kind of people you're trying to reach. If you are on Instagram or TikTok, how many of us are on Instagram here? Let me see your hands. Oh, amazing. Yeah, we're all on Instagram. So on Instagram, there are different types of creators. There's some creators that when they want to advertise their products, these are they'll be dancing with their products. Come and buy, come and buy. There's some other creators that don't do that. Some other creators are more intellectual. Some other creators are more funny. Some other creators are more calm. You need to find a type of creator that resonates with your products that you want to partner with. We know these people who we call influencers, right? Do you know why they call them influencers? Who has an idea? They have large followers. Why else? Okay, not necessarily large followers, but there's something about them. Thank you. Thank you. The influence they have on people, and people seem to believe them and get validation from them. So if I have a fashion brand and I want to partner with an influencer on Instagram, I'm not going to, let me use influencers that we know. How many of us know maybe Mr. Macaroni? Okay, good. If I have a fashion brand, I won't use Mr. Macaroni. The reason is the people who resonate with Mr. Macaroni resonate with him on a comedic level. He's not a fashion icon per se, you know. But if I was going to do a fashion brand and I was going to partner with someone, I stand a better chance partnering with someone like Eniola. How many of us know Eniola? Eniola on Instagram. He's an influencer. Eniola would stand a better chance. I'll stand a better chance partnering with Eniola for my fashion brand. Why? Because people already know him for his fashion sense. And he doesn't even need to say, you guys, I'm wearing a girl shirt, buy. He just needs to wear it and be doing random things. Everybody will see him and say, I want your shirt, I want your shirt. And then, so that's how social media is. You want to ensure that you are aligning with the people who create the kind of content that are reaching the kind of people you're trying to reach you align with them, you create a kind of content that resonates with them as well. Okay? And that's why you must know your audience. If you don't know your audience, you just be creating generic content that will not make any difference. And here's the interesting thing with content or anything at all. If you don't target people, you will not reach anybody. If you don't have a target and you think everybody is your audience, you will end up trying to reach everybody and you won't reach anybody. It's the same way they talk about pleasing people. If you try to please everybody, you won't please anybody. Just choose who you want to please and be happy with your haters. So do that for yourself as a brand. I mean, they don't mean haters in the real sense, but the people who don't necessarily align with your brand, that's fine. Next thing you want to do is engage with your community. One other reason why this is important is because in engaging with your community, you are getting real-time feedback. Real-time feedback on your brand. So you're not just creating social media content, you're not just creating newsletters, and you don't just have an emailing list. You also are interacting with them. And you interact with them, number one, by giving great customer service. So when people reach out to your brand, you want to ensure that you give them the best possible experience. And another thing you want to ensure for consistency is ensure that you have a pattern, even for your customer service. So how do your customer representatives sound like when they reach out to them? Don't leave it to chance. You must be intentional about it and say, this is exactly what to say. When somebody reaches out, you say, hello, my name is Sally today. How can I help you? Or you say, hello, Sally, welcome to this organization. We're here to help you move from there to health, we're here to make your life more healthy. What would you like today? You need to have an exact format of what you want your people to sound like. The reason is you want to ensure that it's consistent every time, so that when you hire a new person, that one doesn't come with a new innovation and start saying something else. Do you understand? That's another way you can create consistency in your customer service. Ensure that you're also building loyalty by delivering on your values. And then number 2 is feedback. Get as much feedback as possible, because feedback is going to help you make changes on your products, on your service, and any form of improvement that you have in real time. And then lastly, you want to network, connect with other businesses and influencers in your industry. that's another thing that you can do to make your brand great. Because brands associate with one another. Let me give you an example. Apple has collaborated with Nike before on a product. And those are two great brands. They don't do the exact same type of service, but because they are on the pinnacle of brand excellence, they're able to collaborate with one another. There are other brands that Apple cannot collaborate with. Same thing with Nike. They can't collaborate with some brands because you need to match their level of brand excellence for them to associate with you. So that's another thing that you want to watch out for, because let me even surprise you. How many of you know that the screens on MacBooks are produced by Samsung? The screens on MacBook are produced by Samsung. And so they don't need to announce it, but it's just how businesses work. And because business is business, you're paying good money for my service, I'm going to give you good quality. And they don't use the exact same type of screen on their own because there is an agreement that they have. So try to find other businesses that you can collaborate with on different levels and ensure that you are making it count. And lastly, or second to the last, consistency is key. However you want to position yourself, you must make sure that you are consistent. If it's red you're using, ensure that you use the red everywhere. If it's a particular font you're using, ensure you use a particular font everywhere. If there's a way you want your people to dress, ensure that they dress that way every time. If there's a way you want them to sound, ensure that they sound like that everywhere. There's something called tone of voice. So your brand needs to have a tone of voice. What does your brand sound like? Is your brand a friendly brand? Is your brand an educative brand? Is your brand an inspirational brand? Is your brand a motivational brand? Whatever type of brand that you are, ensure that you are consistent with the tone of voice, such that when people come into your organization or you hire new staff, they see your tone of voice documents and immediately align with the tone of voice of your organization instead of coming up with their own ideas. Okay? Oh yeah, that's the end. So I can take pictures at this time. Questions? Sorry. So I'll take questions now before we move into our next session. Okay. Okay. Green, black, and white. Okay. Yes, that works. So you have to use them on different backgrounds. So if you have a bright background, you use the one that is black. If you have a bright background, you use the one that is black. But the color in the inside is the same green. Yes, so yeah, that works. That works for different types of backgrounds. And then the challenge with that is that when you want to use that logo on a place where you don't need a background, will it look the same without using the white or the black? If you will, then it's perfect. Yeah, if you will, then it works. It works. Next question. You're welcome. Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. So the short stories, you need to hire someone like me. But the long stories, if you want to do it yourself, what you can do is simply, you need to create a brand guide for your brand. Now, on that brand guide, what you would have is, you would have your logo, okay? You would have your primary colors. So it can be one or 2 colors, but definitely no more than 3. Okay? 1 or 2 colors. I have your primary colors. Now, what your primary colors are these are the colors of your brand. No matter what product you are making, those colors will be there. Do you understand? No matter what product you are making, those colors will be there. And then when you have different products, you may now have separate colors that separate different products, but the major colors will still be there to show that it's from this particular brand. Now, colors are not the only way you can do that. You can do that through a pattern. You can have a pattern for your brand. You can have a brand pattern such that every product, no matter what the color is, it has that pattern. So that way, there's consistency such that if they see it, what the uniform element between those products is not the color, it's the pattern. Do you understand? So you need to find something that is uniform across board. If it's a pattern, if it's a gradient, if it's whatever it may be. So, but first you need a brand color that is consistent with your brand generally, that applies to all your products, and then you can have separate markers for different products. You'll just see that color difference that exists. Is it clear? All right. Yes. Okay, so if you're working with farmers like that, you can do that on 2 levels, and I'll advise you to do it on the higher level. So 2 levels means you're reaching out to them directly, but there's a higher level where you're reaching out to the people who aggregate them. So you have organizations that aggregate all these people. So your job may be to actually reach out to those people, and those may be the people you need to impress instead of the farmers themselves. So you need to position yourself as the solution provider to those people. For example, a parent or a business who is trying to attract students. You can't attract students directly. Why? Because the students are not decision makers. Who would you attract? The parents, the schools, their churches, wherever you find the children. So those are the people that you need to attract. So that's something you may want to consider. Except, of course, there are some other, maybe the types of farmers that you are reaching out. If they are large farmers that have their own independent institution, and so you can find out who they are, where do they meet, what associations do they belong to, what is a common denominator between most of them, apart from maybe an association that they belong to. But where do they interact? What do they have in common? And then use what they have in common as your marker for what you want to target. Is that clear? Yes. You're welcome. Thank you. Any other question? No question? This is good. All right. Thank you so much. I hope this was useful. So we're going to take a break now, and then... Okay, so
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Sarah.